Now this plus option will help me to create a story. I'm just clicking on that option so that it will ask me to create an issue. So if you have multiple boards and multiple projects, if you wanted to import something from another project, you have the option to import the issues. So from the previous things, you can import that. As of now, it's not needed for us. We'll do it in a later point of time, but let us create our own story, right? And the configure fields, like, if you are creating an issue, what are the different fields that you wanted to see, right? So here we have some issues, fields like assignee, meaning to whom it has to be assigned, and attachment, like, if you wanted to attach a screenshot or something, an image or something to this, that attachment field I want to keep here, and which component it belongs to, meaning in the software modules you may, if you have different components, and you can write a component name. And of course, the description, I'll talk about the description and which epic it belongs to, and the fix version, in which version you're going to fix it. And if you have some labels to that, you can. And this issue may be dependent on some other issue, or it is more or less like some other issue, or some more details are available in another issue. So this issue can be linked to that other issue, meaning the other issue will have the number or the link of that Jira. So this issue can be linked to that issue, right? And you can say some priority, high priority, low priority, medium priority. So the priority also, and in which sprint it is, the sprint number. You have sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, like the different sprints are running. And in which sprint it is going to be fixed, or in which sprint are you in currently, the sprint field. Now, if you select all these check boxes, and all of them will be visible to you here in the story, in the issue when you're creating. See, you have to select the project name, in which project you're creating this issue. We have two projects here. We have one project, support center, and the other project is Gmail.
Gmail.
So we selected Gmail as the project. And what are you going to do? Are you going to create a story or a bug, right? As of now, this is a story for me. Okay, very good. And what is the summary for that? And what is the description for that? And which version is that? In which version are you going to fix it, right? And what is the priority, and which label and attachment? And you can issue a link, you can link an issue to this, and you can assign to somebody, and you can give that epic link here, and in which sprint are you going to do this. By the time when you're creating a story, these are the major fields, and some of them can be customized here. If you don't wanted to see some of the fields, so here you can come to this configure fields, and you can remove something if you want. Suppose if you don't wanted to see the fixed version while creating the story, already that fixed version might have disappeared. You'll not be finding that fixed version. So if you wanted to have it, you can select. If not, you can remove. As of now, I wanted to see each and every component here because all of them are needed for me. Maybe the labels is not that much important, and the components and labels, as of now, they are not that much important, but in future I'll talk about them once you've got some familiarity on the remaining things. These are the minimum required things. What are they? Your description and the assignee. So once it has been created, by the time of creating, you may not assign it to anyone because, but the assignee field should be there. Assigning it to somebody is not mandatory by the time when the story is getting created, because you are the product owner. You're just writing a story, and it is there is a long way to travel. Meaning, you created a story, you will be prioritizing that, and the story has to be groomed by the team. Once it got groomed, it has to be estimated. Once it is estimated, it has to pull into a sprint. Once it is being pulled into a sprint, then the original assignment of the story to a particular resource will come into picture. Till that point, you can still leave the story unassigned. Unassigned means it is not assigned to anyone.
Can you please scroll down a bit? Yes.
Are you clear with this assignee first?
Yeah,
Right. What do you want to see?
yeah. I want to see these sprint priority fields once again. Labels.
I'll show you. I
So
will show you. I'll show you definitely. Right. So like that, you will be having these components, and yeah,
So here, all those fields are not mandatory fields. Is there any option through which we can make them mandatory, just like the starting ones with the star, that's summary, issue type,
mm,
project?
they will come by default. The remaining are customizable. So see the project name and issue type, summary. They are mandatory things.
So can we make these also mandatory? Means
No,
the
as
configuration.
per me, no.
Okay. What is there under custom fields that we can?
We are under
These are,
custom fields.
and what about under all?
This one. So these are all the major things. And if you want to customize, go to custom and select or unselect these things. These are the maximum fields,
Hmm.
and you can customize which one is needed and which is not needed for you.
Okay.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And once it got created, that priority field should come here. Oh, where is this priority field? So your project, your issue type, your summary, your description, your fixed version. Yes, here it is. Sorry, I missed it. Right. And in this priority, he's mentioning highest, high, low, low, lowest. So you have these things, and possibly we'll be having an option wherein you can, if you want, you can change these names to something else if you guys wanted to. But the majority of the teams will follow the same, and we'll see if we can customize. We will do that. And one more thing is the mandatory fields. We never, did like that. If you wanted to make something mandatory, because it's already in a built application, right? We never did that. But if I'll check if you can mark a field as mandatory by yourself,
Mhm.
or they have to do some sort of development in the background. Then only it will come. Such this type of things, they should come through the code.
Here, all the internal, what to say, means the development thing and all, it's with Atlas and all, with Atlas and only, right?
Yes,
We
exactly.
can't do anything in this one.
Yes, we just request them, and if it is really they feel that it is a good option,
But
they
we are
will take
having
it up.
our own setup. We can do the customizations if required because we did the installation in our environment. So I think if the software is getting installed in our environment, then it's in our hand only to we can customize or not, right?
Nobody, if you aware of development, anyways you install, but code is not yours, right? Code is them's,
Code, yeah. But
right?
there must be the
There
application.
might be some checkbox or something like that, make it as mandatory. I'll come to you that also. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right, and you can create some stories like 10 or 15 stories if you have, then that will be good to what do you call, to test it or to work it and to create a story sprint, a scrum. If you wanted to play around, at least we need to have some set of stories, and I'm just writing some dummy stories like let me say one story I'm sending, writing, compose, and send an email to customer. This is the description. This is the summary of the story, and description I'm just mentioning the same thing.
This
Right, right.
story is getting created under which sprint is
Sprint not yet created. We are just creating backlog items.
backlog. Okay.
Right. Once they got groomed and all, then sprint will comes into picture.
Mhm. Okay.
So this is the description that I mentioned. But inside this, if you have any technicalities, that will comes later. And we are in 1.0 and it has to be released by 1.0. And I'm feeling that it is a high priority story. I'm putting it over here. And I'll talk about the attachment and linked issues, like, if it is linking, if it is dependent on somebody else, I can. So it is blocked by somebody else. Which one? So unless that login functionality is finished, I can't continue with this compose and send. Meaning it is blocked by the login functionality. So there is another story called user login implementation. That login implementation is done, then I can continue with this. So the person who is going to assign this story and he is about to start, then he will come here and he will see the linked issues. Then he will say, uh, it blocks somebody or it is blocked by somebody, and you are blocked by whom. Then you have to see some stories. Right here there is a story called user login. So this is blocked by user login story. Unless that user login story is not resolved, you're not about, you can't move on, because you have to do a user login, right? So I'll select the story and it will say this particular sc1 is blocking me, so that the person will be knowing that it is a dependent on that. So like that, you can you can link this. And let me say there is a story and the same type of functionality I'm implementing in another module, imagine. And it's a huge story I have to create, and there are a lot of description that I have to write, and many of the fields are common to this and that. In that case, instead of duplicating that story again, and instead of wasting my time and all, what I can do is I can clone it.
Mhm.
I have story A and story B. B is almost similar to A, and minimum things are different. First of all, once this B is also created like A, then in B I'll change whatever is needed for B. So instead of recreating the entire story, what I can do is I can clone a story, uh, and I can create a new one, a clone of the existing one. And if you do like that, it will clearly mention that it is a clone of so and so story or something like that.
Mhm.
And another story, and you or your product owner or somebody in the team, they created a story, but they don't know that that sort of story is already been created by somebody else. Maybe the text might be different. You did user login, and another guy wrote login as a login login user. Both are same, but you don't know that story is there, and that guy don't know this story is there, and both of you written the two stories. And when it comes into picture, by the time when you guys are grooming this, definitely you will encounter this. So by the time, why do I have to clone the other one? Why do I have to groom the other one? We already groomed the same setup story. Then what we can do is we can make it as a duplicate. It's a duplicate of a so and so story. So if you are picking this, that one need not be worked on. Like that, you have it is blocked. It is blocking someone, or it is blocked by someone, or it has been cloned by someone, or it has been cloned, or it is duplicated or duplicated by, or it relates to some on the other way, it is almost similar to the other story. So you can make it this story is related to some other story. You have these features in Jira, and if at all if you need, you can set this. So here I said it is blocked by sc1. Sc1 is another story, right? And this SE1 is blocking this one. Of course, you can. And this assignee, so to whom it has to be assigned. right? Automatic assign means the person who logged in and who created, his name will be automatically assigned here,
Okay.
right? And if you need, if you wanted to, I'm sorry, automatic assign to means your name will be assigned, meaning two things. By the time when you are creating, if you say it is automatic and who logged in and who created, his name will be assigned. Or assigned to means this is being created by somebody and it is there, and you logged in as a second person and you opened this story. Got my point?
Yeah.
Right. At the time, if you click on that assign to me, then the system knows you logged in, and to your name it will be assigned. Or if you wanted to leave it unassigned, not to the product owner also, if you don't want it to assign it to product owner or to you, just make it as assigned, and always its status will be unassigned. Right, and this is one point, and then you will be having one more component called the epic link, right? And you can have this. We already created the epic, right? We created that is a automation story, and you can have this one over here as a automation epic or whatever the epic that you guys are creating.
Okay. But previously, as you were saying, once after the grooming itself, it will be assigned to the epic, right? Or to the sprint use. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Mohit, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, bro. What are you saying? Previously, you said something after the grooming session itself, it will be assigned to the sprint, right? Epic can be assigned initially.
A story is there, I'll tell you. First of all, if a story is there, don't worry about a sprint. Sprint will comes later.
Okay.
Okay, sprint will comes later.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot about the sprint. First of all, your product owner will be always focused on the version,
Mm-hmm.
right? He will be always focusing on the version. First, he will decide the version number.
Okay.
Version 1.0. So this is September. We have to go to the production by the month of October, so on so date. So from today to that date, this is version 1.0, right? And there are totally 400 stories in the backlog, and he decided around 20 stories has to be released by October 15th. Let me say October 15th is the first release 1.0.
Okay.
Then what he will do, the 20 stories that what he decided to move by October 15th will be labeled with 1.0, right? How many stories are there in 1.0? 20 stories. And from this day to his target date, what is his target date? October 15th.
15th. Yeah.
In between this, he don't know how many sprints will come. If yours is a weekly sprint, maybe you will get 4 sprints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Then you will create 4 sprints here. And in each sprint, you will be selecting some stories. So one story, and in sprint one, you have 4 stories. And all the 4 stories will be pulled with the 1.0 version number,
Okay.
right? So like
Yeah.
that, once it is done, then he will create one more version. That is 1.1. And he wanted to release it by November 15th. So by the time when he is creating the version, he will take a approximate time period as well. So this date to this date, I'm thinking this is my version, and I have to release it. So by the time these are the things that I'm planning, and these things has to be released to my customer. This is what he will say. and he will create a version number, and we have to follow that version number,
Okay.
right? And in one version, you can have multiple epics, right? In one version, you can have a multiple epics. Epic is nothing but some just categorization. You have some database related stories, you have some UI related stories, you have some testing related stories, you have some architecture related stories, you have some code refactoring stories. Like that, you have different categories, right? So each you create it as a epic, right? This epic will help you to categorize your stories and to filter your stories. I need all this type of stories. So which will comes under one umbrella. So if you choose that epic, all the stories under that epic will be shown to you. Or if you choose the version, I need the stories under 1.0. All the stories from 1.0 will comes. I need the stories with that automation epic. All the automation epic stories will come.
Hmm.
This is just for categorization, filtering the stories. And it will give more clarity, right, for him. Under this umbrella, how many stories are there? Under this umbrella, how many stories are there? So it will be useful for him to categorize, right? So it's not like that I have to pull the story from this epic only. I have to pull the story from this epic only. Irrespective of the epic, all the stories will be shown to you in the backlog. And usually you will be pulling the stories based on the version number and the priority that has been given by the product owner. Usually 1.0 stories will be on the top. 1.2 stories will be below that. 1.3 will be below that. Like that, he will arrange. In case 1.3 story is on the top, and whichever the story which is on the top, we have to pull that into the sprint because we don't have any decision making capability, authority. We have to take the story. We, in the sense, as a developer, we have to pull the story from the top. But unfortunately, if you open the story and if you see, you could see the version number as 1.3. But you all know you are in 1.0 version. Then you can ask the product owner, but if this is 1.3 story and you kept it on the top of the backlog, then definitely that could be his mistake. He will revert back it to the bottom of the thing, and only 1.0 stories will be pulled to the top of the backlog. That will be his headache.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That is another point. And Epic is for that. Even label, there is another component called label, right? Label is also just for filtering purpose. Meaning one story can have multiple labels. Let me say this story belongs to 1.0, this story belongs to automation, and this story belongs to some other similarity. So you can give some labels, you can create some labels, and those labels also can be given to a story. Why are you giving a label? While filtering, I need a story with this label. If you say that, all the stories with that label will be filtered out, and that those stories will be given to you.
How to give
So
labels?
I will tell you, in one go we can't do any
Yeah.
everything,
Okay.
right? So that
Okay.
label,
Okay. Yeah.
so the label is for categorization, just like your epic, and we can give multiple labels to a story. So there is a story which is related to testing and automation testing, let me say, right? And there are some stories which are related to only automation testing. There are some stories which are related to only manual testing. There are some stories which are related to only unit testing. Like that, there are different stories.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, if I need one particular story, if I wanted to pull from thousands of stories, it will be a bit difficult. Then what you can do, you can filter your stories based on the label. So let me filter all the stories from manual testing. From there, it will be easy for me to pull what are the story I'm looking for. I know that that story belongs to manual testing. I know that the story belongs to development. Like that, you can have some labels, right? And we will create some once we have some set of user stories like 10 or 20, 30. We'll create some user stories, and we'll give some epics to them, and we'll give some labels to them, right? And we'll have multiple versions as well, and we'll arrange them in backlog, and we will try to create some set of sprints, and in sprint we'll try to pull some stories, and we will see different the stories belongs to different versions, different epics, different labels can be there in one sprint. Like that we'll go one by one, right? Yeah. And of course, so that epic link, anyways, we created only one epic called automation. We added here, and then the sprint. So which sprint are you in? Actually, this is a sprint that I created yesterday for the other board, not for this board. It is SC means that support center board. There I created a sprint. But this is Gmail, right? For Gmail, we need to create our own sprint. We have not yet created a sprint. So by the time when you are creating a story, you need not select a sprint because it is not yet what you call groomed in, and it is not yet prioritized, and there is we don't have that much hurry in selecting the sprint. So we can do that later point of time, right? Sprint, we need not assign the sprint by the time when you're writing the story, and we need not have the assignee by the time when you're creating the story. And of course, this blocker, of course, this priority, of course, and the fixed version, if you are the product owner, fixed version will be very well known to you. But only the thing is these two things, what are they? This description and the summary is important. And there we can have one more field called user acceptance criteria. That can be, we have to create that field, and I will create that field as well. What is that? User acceptance criteria. Just like description, you can create one more field called a user acceptance criteria, which is very much important, and that will help us to mention the acceptance criteria, meaning but the person who is verifying the story, he will be having that as a reference, and just by looking into that acceptance criteria, he will be verifying the story, right? That is another point. Okay. And as of now, maybe the target for you is, if you have your Jira board with you, what you do is try to just take the permission from your management. Can I play around